What's going on, you bunch of heathens? Today we are checking out Heathen History. We are checking out the defense of Moscow, the history behind it. So, should be a fun one, and hope you guys enjoy. Let's jump in.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joachim from Sabaton.
And this is another exciting, thrill-packed episode of Sabaton History.
And this week, it's the defense of Moscow.
Defense of Moscow in 1941. The Axis invasion of the USSR in World War II was codenamed Operation Barbarossa, and the drive on Moscow, Operation Typhoon.
Yep, I've heard of
Before I talk about
Never heard of Typhoon, but I have heard of Barbarossa.
It is an enormous subject, and over on my World War II weekly channel, I covered the events of Barbarossa, the largest invasion in history, week by week, each and every week in detail, with a whole bunch of special episodes about things like logistics and planning and all.
That's
Please
cool.
check that out for a better understanding. There is a link.
Quick question. I feel like I'm not sure if I actually watched the channel, reacted to it on my channel, but there was a dude who I watched for a time who covered events like battles and shit and stuff like that from the First and Second World War, I want to say. Every day, like, he would choose one thing that happened on that specific day of when he uploaded it. Or every week, what happened that week in, like, say, 1941. Do any of you know that channel? Because even if I don't watch it on my channel, that's something I just randomly thought about, and it just makes me wonder.
Below.
Because I cannot remember what the channel was.
On June 22nd, 1941, Germany and her allies began what was supposed to be Adolf Hitler's magnum opus, the conquest of the Soviet Union. Communism would be destroyed, and Germany would have unlimited space for living, unlimited resources to live off, and the Slavic peoples as a servant class for the master Aryans. Despite the massive buildup of millions of soldiers across the border, the attack took the Soviet Union completely by surprise. Joseph Stalin had been warned repeatedly over the year of planning that went into the offensive that it was going to happen, but he didn't believe it.
Did he not think?
By the summer of 1941,
did he not think that they would attack because they had the Ribbentrop Pact?
That the rumors were a British plot
that's what it was.
to get him to turn on Germany. See, up until June 22nd, Germany and the USSR were operating under the terms of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which had divided Eastern Europe into zones of conquest between the two powers. Germany was also importing huge amounts of oil every month from the USSR. Still, anyone who read Mein Kampf could see that one day Hitler was going to make an all-out attack on the USSR. It was his ultimate military goal. And June 22nd, 1941
other
was
great people,
day.
great military leaders couldn't.
That had not been the original date, though. It had been set for May 15th. I am aware that there are many people who believe the invasions of Greece or Yugoslavia or Crete in the spring of 1941 are what altered the timetable, but that is not the case.
What is it,
then? I should point out that history is what actually happened, not what we would like to have happened. The invasion of Greece was planned simultaneously with Barbarossa already back in late...
Also, I forget what I was going to say. I was going to add something
in.
All the
units were allocated already then and had their timetables when they had to head north for Barbarossa. And that invasion went more quickly than planned. The lightning conquest of Yugoslavia allowed that to happen. And the decision to attack Crete was not even made until after.
Reason date for changing was the lateness, spring floods.
The Barbarossa date had been changed. The reason for the date changing was the lateness of the
subtitles
spring floods
got messed
in 1941. You cannot bring 3.5 million men, 600,000 horses, and hundreds of thousands of tanks, trucks, cars, and motorcycles over the marshy, muddy ground created when the rivers of Eastern Europe break their banks in the flooding. It is
No, you really
physically
can't.
impossible. And the ground was not hard enough for the invasion to possibly take place until the second week of June at the earliest. Anyhow, the enormous offensive was hugely
makes sense.
successful straight off the bat. And over the summer, prisoners were taken by the hundreds of thousands as panzer thrusts surrounded cauldrons of entire Soviet armies. But even during its greatest successes, the operational flaws of Barbarossa could be seen. The Soviet Union has two great advantages in warfare: endless men and endless space. And the colossal distances involved for the attackers to cross and supply wreaked havoc with German logistics already by early July.
Yeah, logistics
There were
is,
few
is
roads.
king above all.
German trains were a different gauge from the Soviet ones. So whole new track systems had to be built because the Soviets destroyed their rolling stock, installations, and, well, everything as they fell back or were pushed back.
Smart.
Also, whereas in the Battle of France, the panzers could fill their tanks at roadside gas stations, the Soviets used a different octane gasoline. Basically, everything that was needed to supply the millions of men and their animals and vehicles had to be brought in from further and further away as the summer turned to autumn,
did they not?
and the Soviet resistance grew stiffer and stiffer.
Did Germany not know that? So they said they planned for, this was in the works for a while. Did Germany not know that it was a different gauge for trains and different octane for gas, or did they find that out on the ground? I'm sure someone will let me know.
Russia 1941, they don't belong. We stand our ground, a million strong. We are ready for the strike. Face the army of the Reich. A million
Such a good intro. It's such a good chorus.
But this episode is not about Operation Barbarossa.
Oh,
It is
this is about Typhoon.
Operation Typhoon, the German drive on Moscow. The orders for the operation are issued September 6th and call for the destruction of the forces blocking the Moscow road.
Really laggy. Hold on. There, that better? I think that's better. Yeah, I think that's better.
In the limited time which remains available before the onset of the winter weather. Operation Typhoon begins October 2nd. Hitler announces, "Today begins the last great decisive battle of the year. At last, we have created the prerequisites for the final tremendous blow, which, before the onset of winter, will lead to the destruction of the enemy." Actually, the night before, he issues a proclamation to be read to the troops that, "In barely 3 months, you have taken over 2 million prisoners. You have destroyed or captured 17,500 tanks and over 21,000 guns. You have downed or destroyed on the ground 14,200
Yeah, that's a
planes.
lot of shit
The
that
world
they've
has never
done.
seen anything like this." Which may well be true, but, you know, they still haven't won. Dr.
Big point.
Who's been with the spearheads of Barbarossa since June 22nd, writes that in spite of such staggering losses, east of the Meja, the Russians prepared a strong system of trenches, bunkers, tank traps, and barbed wire entanglements, brought up supplies, and gathered their strength to stand against us once more. And just a side note, there is no guarantee that even taking Moscow will mean the fall of the Soviet Union. Yet the offensive immediately breaks through the Soviet position.
Which-
Panzer Group
Obviously, that's going to be one of the main points that you want to shoot for. But, yeah, the Russian people don't seem like the kind who would just capitulate after losing their capital. If anything, it'll make them fight harder. And yeah, it'll hurt their pride. That'll make them want to fight even harder.
4 advances 15 kilometers that day. Panzer Group 320 on the 3rd in Berlin. Adolf Hitler gives his first national address since Barbarossa began. On the morning of June 22nd, the greatest struggle in the history of the world began. Today, I can state that everything has gone to plan. I may say today that this opponent has already broken down and will never rise again. By that
So that
evening,
was a fucking lie.
Panzers have advanced a
And yes, I'm
full
restarting
50
my
kilometers.
model.
Panzer Army Commander Heinz Guderian reports snow on October 6th, but as John Keegan points out, it's hard to know which would be better for the attackers, a long autumn or an early winter. A long autumn will mean trying to advance through roads turned into swamps by the rains, which might not be possible, but an early winter, an early Russian winter, will freeze the roads solid enough, but will bring blizzards and frostbite. As planned, while the Germans advance, Russian peasants set fire to the already harvested crops, blow up village buildings, and drive the animals away. They will leave behind literally nothing but blackened earth for the Germans. And the Red Army
Scorched
is
earth.
really starting to fight back. And yet, the armored rings of Army Group Center's 3 panzer groups are slowly closing. But already after the first few days, Guderian's and Hermann Hoth's panzers cannot advance temporarily for lack of fuel. The Luftwaffe does not have any sort of aerial supremacy, and the Red Air Force is making life difficult for the Germans on the ground. However, Soviet Army Chief of Staff Boris Shaposhnikov gets a report that a German column,
that is a
20
heavily Russian
kilometers
name.
long, is advancing unopposed on Yukhnov, around a third of the way to Moscow. The plain fact is, German units are operating behind Soviet lines with nothing between them and Moscow. Joseph Stalin says to mobilize everything and hold the Germans for a week till they can bring in reserves. A new defense line should be built west of Moscow, anchored on Mozhaisk. The Western, Bryansk, and reserve fronts are now authorized to withdraw, but it seems to be too late. By the 7th, disaster is unfolding. Georgy Zhukov has arrived from Leningrad to take over Moscow's defense, but he sees the scale of the disaster. Both the Western and
Hell of a
reserve
job to
fronts
have to take
are
over.
in a huge pocket centered on Vyazma, and the road to Moscow is, in fact, open. Exciting, isn't it?
Very.
In Stalin's orders, defend the motherland. Moscow shall not fall. Standing for the land, the blood for the whole land. Hear the mother's call, rise to the storm.
And because they put the songs in the history episodes, that is why I've started listening to the song and then the history. So that way I don't get spoiled by it.
The weather changes at the end of the first week. Colder and with rain and snow. The Rasputitsa, the autumn mud, is beginning. Vasily Grossman writes, there's rain, snow, hailstones, a liquid bottomless swamp, black pastry mixed by thousands and thousands of boots, wheels, caterpillars, and everybody is happy once again. The Germans must get stuck in our hellish autumn. But Army Group Center's war diary that day proclaims, all corps have the order, forwards, forwards, forwards. By mid-month, there is panic in Moscow, and people evacuate east. But Zhukov has mobilized 250,000 Muscovites, most of them women, to build the city's defenses. After 3 weeks of typhoon, stubborn defense and ever more mud, snow, and ice have prevented the Germans from reaching the city. But all the while, the German papers have proclaimed impending victory. American journalist Howard Smith in Berlin says that now really comes the breaking point for many German people in terms of trusting their government's accurate reporting of the war. Joseph Goebbels' diary says, our victory news is no longer accepted with the required attention and necessary importance.
Well, no,
And
because
even
you've been
as
saying
Vyazma
it, but
falls,
they haven't
it drives
won
home
yet.
The question to the average German soldier, just how big is the Red Army? Because they're still not beaten.
Fucking massive.
Vyazma is just the first hurdle. And when Stalin gets the intelligence that the Japanese will definitely not attack the Soviets in the east until at least the spring of 1942, he orders half of the divisional strength of the Far East to head west to hold Moscow. That's more than 8 divisions with 1,000 tanks and 1,000 planes.
I wonder what would have happened if once they moved them, if Japan decided to attack. Or if Japan did attack and the Red Army was split. I wonder how the defense would have gone then.
500,000 people are now working on the city's defenses, but the Germans are just 100 kilometers away. However, the Blitz tactics, which had so utterly shattered the Soviet front in early October, when
aren't working
conditions were
now.
dry and the panzer forces more tightly concentrated, were now impossible. On October 30th, Operation Typhoon comes to a halt until the winter weather can freeze the ground enough for some mobility to return for the Germans. On November 7th, Joseph Stalin gives his famous speech of defiance in Red Square and the October Revolution parade, promising the destruction of the German invaders. Their drive is renewed November 15th in minus 20-degree weather. Lubricating oil freezes, rifle bolts break, sentries freeze to death, but the German advance continues.
God
Advance units
damn.
cross the Volga-Moscow Canal. General Konstantin Rokossovsky gets the order. Kryukovo is the final point of withdrawal. There can be no further falling back. There is nowhere to fall back to. The canal is now the last big obstacle before Moscow is surrounded from the north. On the morning of November 28th, German panzers are not more than 35 kilometers from the Kremlin. Erich Hepner's 4th
damn.
Panzers take Krasnaya Polyana November 30th and are now in artillery range of Moscow. In the morning of December 1st, Gunther von Kluge's 4th Army launches a furious attempt to take the shortest route to Moscow, the Minsk-Moscow Highway. By noon, the Soviets have been pushed back several kilometers, and the Germans are 7 kilometers from the highway. Should they reach the highway and split the Soviet 5th and 33rd Armies, well, Zhukov cannot allow that to happen, so he throws everything he has left into the breach. On December 2nd, a German combat engineer patrol reaches Khimki, 18 kilometers from the city center, on a scouting mission. This is the closest the Germans get to Moscow.
Oh,
In a deep
damn.
and terrible freeze, with German soldiers
That's fucking insane to think about that. The closest they ever got was with a scouting mission. Despite all the planning, all the men, they just couldn't get there.
screaming in the snow that they could not go on. The last German bid for Moscow had failed. On December 4th, it is minus 37 degrees.
Oh,
Blizzards
fuck
have
that.
begun, and the Wehrmacht has been stretched to its breaking point and has failed. And at 3 a.m., December 5th, the Great Red Army counteroffensive begins. But that, my friends, is a story for another day.
Face the bullets of their guns, Russia's daughters and her sons, all the brave who stand against the typhoon wave.
But what is the tale for today? I'll ask you a question in a second, but this is the first episode with you that we've done in this new set.
Yes.
So what do you
This
think?
cool ass set.
So far, so good. It's
Yeah.
the first shot. There's a bit of sand on the floor. So it's really super beautiful. Even the historical part.
The sand does look nice.
Yeah, this is
Seems
all
like a
new, and this
bitch to
is,
clean up, but that's
this
nice.
This is what's going to be the set for the next 11, 12 episodes, whenever
like
they
that.
get to come out. Now, I'm holding a grenade.
Why?
Well, I can't let go of it. Because then we'll have to build another set. Okay.
That was actually
The tale for today.
pretty quick-witted. Just why are you holding one? Because I can't let it go.
All right?
That
Tale
was
for
pretty
today,
quick
the
with it.
defense
I
of
like that.
Moscow.
Yes.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit about this.
This is a bit of an unusual song, actually, because it's a cover. We've done covers before.
Yeah.
But this is a
Yes,
cover.
you guys
of
were saying
Russian
that
guy
it's a
called
cover.
Radio Tapok. And in the past, he's done Sabaton covers. I would say, well, some of the most famous ones would be Attack of the Dead Men,
Right.
Night Witches, but check him out, seriously. He's done a lot more stuff.
I'll have to.
He made this song about the defense of Moscow
Right.
in the style of Sabaton. So
Okay.
it's his song that he did in the style of Sabaton. And we thought, well,
That is actually insane. This sounds like a Sabaton song. And he nailed their style so well that I didn't know it was a cover until you guys told me about it. Like, he has got their shit on lock. That is insanely talented.
he's done a bunch of covers on us. Why don't
One,
we
two.
make a cover of his stuff, you know?
I like it. That's cool.
But, you know, in terms of covers, every band at some point does a cover of something, even if it's just messing around in their rehearsal room and stuff.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Oh, well, there's been quite a few. We've done, lately, we did some, well, I think one of the most famous ones or popular ones was In the Army Now, which is what I think most people would think is a status quo song, but it's actually a Bolland and Bolland song. So we made a cover of the cover, I guess.
Cover of a cover of a cover.
First got together, your first rehearsals and stuff. Were you already writing songs then, or was it mostly just covers until you beefed up your own?
Oh, good
A
question.
bit of everything, actually. When we started out and, sort of, had people coming and going and became Sabaton, I mean, it was basically the same bunch of friends listening to Judas Priest and Halloween and Iron Maiden and,
Hell yeah.
there was a bunch of covers from all kinds of bands. But we really early, we started making our own music as well.
And you planned to be like 100% like this. Our show is 100% Sabaton music. Was the idea?
I mean, at that point, we didn't have a career plan or anything. We were just a bunch of guys drinking beer and having fun.
Yeah, that's how
What
most
about
bands
other
should.
people's
That's how
covers that
bands
might
should
be either
start.
Unexpected.
Just
things
we're a
that
bunch of guys
you
hanging out.
Think are a cover of something, and they're not. They're a cover of something different.
Well, for me, I mean, I hadn't known when I heard Johnny Cash play Hurt when that was released. I think it was Rick Rubin who.
Yeah.
Dude, by the way, listen to that if you haven't. It is such a good song. Johnny Cash is Hurt. Like, it is so good. Johnny Cash killed that song. I love it.
Songs, yeah.
And I didn't know that was a cover until a year later, that it was a Nine Inch Nails song.
Oh, I remember the Nine Inch Nails version. I liked Nine Inch Nails back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day. You see, it's not just Gina G and Bailando for me. I have a fairly broad palette.
I
Hey,
enjoy
wanna hear a
Nine
good
Inch
story about
Nails every
You
so
should
often.
Tell me about that song.
Can we get a picture of Tommy? Can we get a picture of the Bailando girls too? Can we swap faces? Right now.
Oh my God.
Okay,
It
wait,
fits
so
so well.
What
And he has some
what is the
magnificent
story
hair.
with Tommy and Bailando.
No, you'll have to ask him, it's...
Okay, damn it.
He swore me to secrecy.
Okay, ooh. No, but here's a thing of a cover of a cover. The Kingsmen did the famous version of Louie Louie that everybody knows, hello, hello, and everybody knows that and stuff. And a lot of people know that song is a cover. But the original version was a guy named Richard Berry in 1955. And the original version, if you find it, which we don't have the rights to, but it's super cool. It's my favorite version. It's really smooth, like 50s R&B, right? But the Kingsmen had not heard that version. They didn't cover that version. There was a guy in the Pacific Northwest in like Washington State and Oregon, where the Kingsmen are from, called Rockin' Robin Roberts, who in the late 50s did a cover of that. And it has, because the original version doesn't go.
That's cool.
That's not how the original version goes. Rockin' Robin Roberts sort of does some of that. But his cover sounds a bit like the original. But the Kingsmen cover sounds nothing like the original because they never heard the original. So they did a cover of the cover, thinking that they were doing
cool.
a cover.
Man, I love artist names back in the 50s.
Rockin' Robin Roberts.
That is an amazing. That is a pretty cool name for the.
Chuck Berry. But he was a California-based R&B dude in the mid-50s. The things you learn here on Sabaton History.
Yeah, I love
Well, I
history.
think that is actually it.
Doesn't matter what
for
kind.
Today's exciting tale of glory and covers. Glory. I'm still holding this,
I think they want to see the end.
Okay, well, that is it for Joachim and myself for today's exciting episode of the Sabaton History Channel.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and insert cool explosion effects and stuff now.
Like that right there. I don't know. The cadence of it is so good.
Click that bell. It's really important. Click it now. And then, hope to see you again in the near future. Bye-bye.
Oh, you will definitely see me again. I love watching your guys' shit. That was The Defense of Moscow, Sabaton History. Like, God, I love learning about history. History was always one of my favorite, if not my favorite classes in school. And it's just so much fun to learn about. I honestly love it so much. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys check out the original. It's linked below. Until next time, you guys take care of yourselves. See ya.